not sure if I say that right, but that I see that very fundamental difference in view between central bankers that just don't see Bitcoin as money because it cannot be printed. And Bitcoiners see it as the perfect money because the same argument, it cannot be printed. So, yeah, we have to discuss that. Well, whatever the future may bring, Bitcoin certainly did enter the geopolitical scene, right? It's and it has come a long way because it has come from a cryptographic programmer's toy, basically, to a collectible that has some value to an asset that even institutional investors take serious, like Fidelity. And companies use on their treasury accounts as money, like MicroStrategy. And right now we have seen, of course, the first country adopted El Salvador, which is a very small country, but certainly if that has some follow up by bigger countries like Mexico, Brazil, or I don't think Turkey, but some bigger country would be opening the entire geopolitical discussion that was pioneered by El Salvador.
Bitcoin is showing signs of recovery after facing a massive setback in the last few days. Despite the invasion of Ukraine by Russian forces and the tense geopolitical conditions, the global cryptocurrency market cap rose by 1.4% to $1.8 trillion. Many crypto experts believe that the panic is over for the coming few days or weeks, as market is going to correct and risk-on entities like Bitcoin and equities are moving up. Recently, the anonymous crypto analyst and creator of the Bitcoin stock-to-flow model Plan B gave an interview where he looks at the macro forces driving current markets and what that means for Bitcoin as it enters a geopolitical landscape. Hello and welcome to Money Talks. In today's video, Plan B talks about Bitcoin's outlook in 2022 and beyond, Bitcoin's 4-year halving cycle, and the next phase of Bitcoin adoption. Also, make sure to stick around till the end as Plan B reveals how current Russia-Ukraine market conditions could affect Bitcoin. If you like the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the post notifications. Let's dive right into the video.
Yeah, well, I think the halving cycle is still very much alive. At least it was alive last time, right? In 2020, because there was one party talking about the halving cycle and stock to flow and price increase. But there was also a very large group on the other side that talked about the death spiral and the hash rate going down and Bitcoin going to zero and Bitcoin was dead, basically. And we've seen that same discussion in all three past halvings, and I'm quite sure we'll see that same discussion pop up again in the 2024 halving. So as long if there is two views fighting each other, I think it's still there. Personally, I think the halving cycle will be there until we beat real estate stock to flow. So maybe one or two more times, but indeed it cannot go on forever. And I like the supercycle theory or scenario because it gives you a scenario with a thought that's very reasonable. And I like thinking in scenarios. So the halving is one scenario, the supercycle is another scenario. Maybe there's even there will be more scenarios. But for me as a quant or analyst, nerd also, but I have to see it in the data. I have to see the super cycle in the data, and right now I'm not seeing it yet, and that's okay. So we have to track that. But for example, volatility. One of the things that's within the super cycle theory or view is that volatility must go down. And we've seen the last couple of months that we dropped 50%. Twice last year. So I guess volatility is here to stay.
Plan B shares his perspective on Bitcoin's performance in 2022 and the impact of high volatility of Bitcoin on its returns. He also reveals why he thinks Bitcoin is a crazy investment idea with the biggest upside potential.
The other scenario is, of course, well, Bitcoin is more like a commodity or a currency even with a yield curve or an interest rates at least not that far out as the US dollar, but at least 1 year out, and a Sharpe ratio of at least higher than 1, which is very unique for Bitcoin. It has very high volatility, but the upside potential is even higher. So it makes a very crazy investment actually. One that has not, it's the only one out there with return above volatility. And I think there is also an arbitrage relationship there with interest rates and with currencies that and we didn't talk about it, but we talked about the link between the rates, the interest rates, the bonds, and the equity market. We didn't, but there's also a very tight link, maybe even tighter, because it's a direct arbitrage and it's also mathematical between foreign exchange and interest rates. So, for example, the 1 year interest rates in Europe is minus 25 basis points. The 1 year rate in the US is 1.25, I guess. So that's 150 basis points between them. If the US is going to raise interest rates and Europe is not, that makes the dollar more interesting, more attractive, and money will flow to the dollar will get stronger. And there's a very direct arbitrage relationship with futures, of course. You can buy dollars or sell euros right now or 1 year ahead and capture that spread. And if you look at Bitcoin as a currency, you can do the exact same thing through the exact same mechanism, namely the futures. So you can lock in, and currently it's low, but you can lock in like 8, 9, 10% in futures contango premium.
Plan B breaks down the importance of Bitcoin's increasing institutional adoption and why central banks are in a state of dilemma over Bitcoin. He also refers to El Salvador's adoption of Bitcoin as a legal tender and how it can shut the doors of IMF if Bitcoin gets more recognition.
Yeah, I think that's very, very interesting. And there is a very fundamental dilemma or discussion with central banks to be had here. Because if you imagine a small country like El Salvador making the step to adopt Bitcoin as legal tender, it shuts the door to the IMF, because that normally a country like El Salvador would get a loan from the IMF, and the IMF would have some criteria that El Salvador has to fulfill, and then it gets the loan and blah blah blah. So, but right now, of course, it's sort of fighting the IMF, or IMF is not happy, and it opens some discussion. And for me personally, having talked to central banks and having worked with central banks a lot, there is a very fundamental thing about, on the one hand, Bitcoin being the best currency that there is, because it's absolute scarcity, because of its portability, because nobody can debase it, etc., etc. And the other story that central banks believe in, that a currency has to be controlled and has to be, you have to, like the Fed, be able to print money and to taper and to steer and control the economy. You have to accommodate when the economy needs it, and you have to tighten things up if it's possible. And I guess that control they're not going to give up unless they see that the absolute scarcity and the non-control will bring more benefits to the world.
Bitcoin analyst Plan B has also said that most investors see the Apex coin as a tech stock akin to Google or like a meme stock, not as a commodity or digital gold. And if Bitcoin can hold on to the $30,000 level over the short term, That would likely mean investors are still upbeat about the economic outlook and that risky assets should stabilize once the Russia-Ukraine crisis impact is better understood.
If I simplify it totally, you can use a lot of things to value Bitcoin. You can use indeed the non-zero addresses. You can use the transaction volume or the UTXO volume or the hash rate to make the link with the miners, or you can use the stock to flow ratio, or you can just use time as an adoption variable.
Yep.
And basically, they all show you one thing: that the price goes up and to the right, and then it becomes more of a personal taste, I guess, which one you would pick. You can go very mathematical with it. You can go. You can do an econometric discussion about which model fits better, or which model has co-integration, or is not overfitted, etc., etc. Or you can do a very fundamental perspective on it, and that's what I did with the stock to flow, of course.
And that brings us to the end of today's video. What are your thoughts about Plan B's perspective on Bitcoin's 4-year halving cycle? Will we see the next halving in 2024? Tell us in the comments. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you soon with the next video. Thank you so much for watching.